The next step is we're going to be gluing this to here. Okay? Let me give you another tip before we move on. Get yourself a little package of these Velcro dots. Okay? What we're going to do with that is we're going to peel off. You can use either side, the fuzzy side or the hook side. We're going to take this. We're going to place it right over the back side of the snap. And that does a couple things. Number one, when you put your item in and out, okay, it's not going to scratch the surface of the item. And when you get this all together, okay, it adds a little bit of thickness there, so when it slides in, it kind of makes it so it won't come out. That's just a little tip for you. You don't have to do that, but I do. Okay, let's get this glued up. Hopefully I don't get the glue all over me again this time. So what you're going to want to do is get this flush on the bottom and evened up. Get yourself a pencil. You're going to make a couple witness marks. Give yourself a little line there, a line there. And just make a slight little mark right there. So hopefully you can see that. So now I'm going to take my pencil. I'm going to touch it to that line. I'm just going to go down like that. If I keep my finger in this position, that line is going to be the same. Okay. Now this is the area you're going to want to glue. And around here. So let's get some glue. Come on, glue, work with me this time. Alright, give it a little stir. As you can see what I'm doing, scraping it off the side. If you don't do that, it'll just glob up and drip all over the place. Let's start to get your glue on. Again, this is only to hold it until we stitch it. The stitching is going to be what actually holds this all together. And again, the reason why we dye it first, if any of this glue gets on the side, we don't want it to penetrate into the raw leather, then the dye definitely won't stick. Don't go above that line, because that'll show. We'll get some on this side. Make sure you got good coverage. Put your cap on your glue. And we're going to let that sit for 20 minutes and we'll be back. Okay, we're back. Glue set up good. This block that we made is going to come into play again. Remember, we have the arrow facing up. We're going to place this in here. So we want to keep our shape. If this wasn't in here, you can see how it can get deformed. We'll place this in here. Get our piece here. And we're going to want to line this up with the bottom and the sides. Squeeze right here. And start pressing it together. As you can see, if the object that we were putting in there was this object, you can see what a firm fit that is. Okay. Squeeze that down. Don't worry about if this doesn't line up, because that's why we made it wider, because we're going to be trimming that. Let's get our knife and try it out. Nice. Fits right in. Okay. Next step is we're going to want to trim this up. Just keep pressing it. Get a good fit. Check the back. Make sure everything looks nice. Let me bring this board out. So I made this, it's just 2 pieces of plywood nailed to the back of this baseboard here. And the reason why I did that is, when you go to trim this, okay, with the belt loop on the back, and as you can see why we did all that work first, right, because once this is glued together, you'd never be able to get the stitches done. This is in here because, well, this you could actually get on if you added a piece of wood underneath there and did it, but it's much easier to do it when it's in, you know, apart. So if you took this and you just laid it down like this, you're not going to get a good cut. So I made this board so I could place this down, and the belt loop fits in that groove, so I can get a nice cut and keep it flat down against the side. Okay, give me 1 second, I gotta get my little ruler. Okay, I got the stitching done down this side to this hole. Okay, continue these next couple stitches. I'll show you what I mean about locking it in. Okay, conventional way, you continue going up. Like I said, you get to here, then you back up a couple stitches. But again, to make it look more uniform and neat in my eye anyway, okay, I'll start to go backwards across here. And remember, it gets a little tight when you start going backwards. Snug these up good as you're going along, because like I said, you're going to have double stitches in there. You want them all to sit nice and flat. Into our final hole. Now you can see why I leave so much extra. If you did exactly 3 times, the end of the needle will probably be like right over here. So you take this again, you're going to nip off the end. Get your lighter, melt that. Now we have that one side finished. Hopefully it shows up, but as you can see, you got a nice single thread going all the way down to here. Then here's where it starts to double. It's a noticeable difference for the double compared to the single. So that's why I like to do it this way. Then I'll continue down this side into here and then come back to here. So the whole bottom will be a double stitch and the sides will be a single stitch, and you won't see this thickness that's here up here. So when I get done with that, I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. So if you remember, we used this for the width originally, and what we're going to end up with is this width. Okay, like I said, I just cut this out of a piece of an aluminum ruler. Okay, and this is the width that I like. As you can see on this one, there it is. So now, very carefully, you're going to place this down. Okay, watch your fingers. Get this on here. Now, if you didn't have this, you could use something like a divider, and you could make a line and follow it, but you really should have something that's solid so you can get a nice straight line. Get your fingers back as best you can. Get this parallel. It's a little difficult with the camera in front of my face, but let's see what we can do here. It wants to slide off the bottom here. You don't want to. Okay, once you have that line, you can get your knife in there. Get that cut. As you can see, that's why we didn't have to worry about if it wasn't perfectly met up, because once we trim it off, we're gonna have a nice flat surface. And if you could see in here, you see the dye, okay, that probably would have been glue if we did it on the raw leather, and it wouldn't have taken the stain when we restain this. Okay, so I'm going to trim this up all the way around, and I'll be back when that's done. Okay, so I have it all trimmed up, as you can see. Okay, if for some reason when you were cutting it, you didn't cut it straight, you could use your sanding block, if I can find it. There it is. You could use your sanding block, and you could sand it straight. Okay. Right now, we don't need to dye these edges back yet. We want this nice clean edge for the next step. Still gonna need this little block. Like I said, this holds this down flat. Okay. We need to take our tools that I made, pick the one that we want for the edge. These are my two edging tools. There's not a ton of difference in the width, but it's just enough for various projects. I like to use this little wider one. Okay, so as you can see, that's where it's going to put the stitch line. So you take this longer end, place it here, and draw your line. Don't go all the way down to the end, because that'll leave a mark. But you want to be at the end over here. Okay? Go down to the bottom. Go around this side. Now you're going to have that's your perfect line going all the way around. Okay? Now you're going to get your marking tool. And I like to put a stitch, see if I can point to that, right through here and go over this. some people say that that's vulnerable to get cut and whatnot, but again, for what we're using this for, there's no chance of that really happening. So our first stitch is going to go here, and then we're going to go down. Okay, so let's get our marks in there. Okay, like I said, don't go all the way down to the end. Go about halfway and then start at the bottom. Poor lighting here, but okay. Now you want to check here. I'll put just a little dot and see. And we got lucky, and the space is exactly right. Now if it wasn't, you would put a mark here and the mark here, and then just split the difference. And you could use the awl. Where is that awl? Let's just say this is the awl, and make the mark in between those two. If it's so slightly off, your eye's not going to pick it up. Okay, so we're going to continue to make these dots all the way around, and then we'll get the awl and we'll start our punches. So let me get all these dots in, and we'll start punching this up. Okay, we got all our marks in where we're going to punch our dots. Okay, we got one up here. Okay, so you get the idea. So you're going to punch them all the way around. When I get back to this side, I'll be back. Okay, we got all the holes punched, and we used our drill with the awl in it to enlarge in the holes. If you can see right here, I left one so you could see I missed it. We're going to take this just to show you again how to do it. Get it started in the hole. Now you're ready to stitch. Now when I do these pouches, again, you could start here, go all the way around, end up here, and then come back a couple stitches to lock it. I like to start on each end. I'll come down here, I'll come to here. If there happens to be a hole exactly in the middle, I'll stop there. In this case there's not, so I'll stop there and then go back, and then start here, go down, cross over that one, and come back this way. So that'll leave a double stitch down at the bottom and then a single stitch down the sides, and to me it just looks more uniform. So again, you're going to get your thread, and you're going to want it to be at the minimum 3 times the length that you're going to stitch. I go for 4 or more because I've ran out a few times and it was too short to finish it, and then you're sitting there with a pair of tweezers pulling all the threads out. Okay, so in this case we want to go down to here, down to here. So we take our thread, we got there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have a little extra. Okay, so now we're going to start up here, come through, even out your thread, come through the top, snug that up a little bit, through the back, pull that out, tighten it up, Tighten that up. Okay. So I'll finish stitching down here. When I get to the bottom, I'll show you what I meant about coming back and then starting over. Okay. I got the stitching done down this side to this hole. Okay. Continue these next couple stitches. I'll show you what I mean about locking it in. Okay, conventional way, you continue going up. Like I said, you get to here, then you back up a couple stitches. But again, to make it look more uniform and neat in my eye anyway, okay, I'll start to go backwards across here. And remember, it gets a little tight when you start going backwards. Snug these up good as you're going along, because like I said, you're going to have double stitches in there. You want them all to sit nice and flat. Into our final hole. Now you can see why I leave so much extra. If you did exactly 3 times, the end of the needle will probably be like right over here. So you take this again, you're going to nip off the end. Get your lighter, melt that. Now we have that one side finished. Hopefully it shows up, but as you can see, you got a nice single thread going all the way down to here. Then here's where it starts to double. It's a noticeable difference for the double compared to the single. So that's why I like to do it this way. Then I'll continue down this side into here and then come back to here. So the whole bottom will be a double stitch and the sides will be a single stitch, and you won't see this thickness that's here up here. So when I get done with that, I'll be back. Okay, we got all the stitching done. This side's completed. The next step we're going to do is we're going to use our nylon hammer and we're going to tighten down these threads. Careful you don't hit the side, you leave a nick. Flip it over. Run your finger across it. Make sure you're satisfied with how it feels. Okay, the next step is get the item that you made the pouch for, place it inside, and flip this over. Okay, you're going to want to hold this tight, and then you want to press right over where the snap is. And what that's going to do is that's going to leave a little indentation. If you can see here, I made a little plus sign exactly where the indentation was, but a little lower, and I'll explain that here so you can see it. So let's say here's my indentation. Okay, this would be the center of where the indentation was. I'll make my mark right there. Okay, just a little bit lower. We're talking, you know, about 1/8 of an inch. And what that's going to do is that's going to make this tight, very tight when you start using it. But as you start using it, the leather will stretch a tiny bit, and you'll have a perfect fit. Okay. Next, what you're going to want to do is make yourself a little template that'll end up being what you trim this to. Okay, and it could be whatever shape you want. I mean, you could leave it square if you want. You could just cut it off there. You know, aesthetically, I think that something like this looks nice. So at this point, you're going to make a reference line that's centered here, and it's going to be exactly where that hole is going to be that you're going to punch into here. So we'll do the punch right now. Use that same method that I used before. Give it a little circle. That's a little off. Okay, that looks good. Give it a little punch, push it up a little bit. There you go. Now for this one, you're going to use this end and this end. This end snaps onto here. Okay, but before you put that on, slip this through. Get your template that you punched a hole in previously. Place that on there. Hold it straight. And draw your outline. Hopefully that shows up, but you can see that right there. Okay, you can take this snap off here. It's a good idea to make templates for things. Once you're done cutting this out, you can make a template of the entire back piece. You can have a template of this, a template of the size of the leather you started with, and you can write on them what they're for, you know, Barlow knife, you know, and then you can keep them and you can replicate it. Get our little trimming board, put that down. Want to keep some nice clean edges. We'll run this across this line here. Give that a trim. Make sure you keep your fingers out of the way. For the top part, you can use the razor blade. You could use the shears like we did in the other step. Okay, I'll continue on with the razor blade. As you can see, look, the razor blade is stationary, and my cut is deep enough that I can just roll it around and follow that line. Okay, a little nip right there. Okay, at this point, you got your basic shape. You're going to get your sanding block and start refining it. Okay, so you got the idea for that. Use the rough side, then you can go to the smoother side. And down here in this corners, you can leave them square, or you can take your block and you can round them off a bit. So I'm going to finish sanding this up, and then we'll be back and we'll install a snap and get on to the next step. Okay, we have it all trimmed up. I'm satisfied with the way it looks. Got some nice rounded off edges. Okay, at this point, again, before you put the snap in, get your little tool that you made here. You're going to place this on here. You're going to get your beveling tool, and you're going to start to bevel the edges. Hold it down flat against something if you can. A little train action going on in the background. Just take your time. Now you can get your sandpaper block. If you have little edges like that, you could clean them up with this. Any edges you couldn't reach, you can clean them up. Okay. Once you're satisfied with what you got, you're ready to put your final snap on. Bring our block over. Okay. Now you're going to need to use the concave side. So if you look on this snap, you can see that fits right in there. Place it into the hole. Use the mating side. Place that right over the anvil. Get your setting tool. And remember how I showed you how to do this. You're going to go in a circular motion. Check it. Getting tight. Get a nice round. Okay. Get your item. Make sure you can snap it. There you go. There it is. Okay, the next step is, get this out of the way, that's heavy. Just going to get your die again, shake it up. In this case we'll use a little foam tip. Should probably put gloves on, but I'll just show you how to do it. Get some dye on your edges that were trimmed. Now, as you can see, it's full coverage. None of the glue is stopping it. Okay, at this point you can put a whole nother coat on if you feel that you need it. This looks good the way it is, so we're going to let this dry and we'll be back in the final part so I can show you the final finishing. Thanks for watching.